Hey gardeners, Amy here. Welcome to my garden. Today I want to talk about these two lovely orange and yellow flowers right here. It's called orange milkweed or Asclepias tuberosa. This one is really great to have in your garden, so I want to tell you all about it. There's several common names, like lots of common names. Most people refer to it as butterfly weed, but it's also called orange milkweed, Canada root, chigger flower, spelled two different ways, flux root, Indian paintbrush, Indian posy, orange root, orange swallow-wort, flourzy root, silky swallow-wort, tuber root, yellow milkweed, white root, wind root, butterfly love, butterfly weed, and butterfly milkweed. Now, as with many common names, those get confusing because a lot of them actually refer to other plants. For instance, butterfly weed usually refers to swamp milkweed. Butterfly orange milkweed or orange butterfly weed is usually this one. And then Indian paintbrush is a completely different plant altogether. So, common names. Anyway, the botanical name is Asclepias tuberosa, and that refers to, I think, Greek god of medicine. Asclepius, it's spelled differently than the genus name that we use today, but that's what it refers to. And then tuberosa refers to the root. This thing has a deep taproot, and that actually makes it really hard to move once it's established. So when you plant this thing, make sure that you want it where it's sitting. It's in the family Apocynaceae, which is the dogbane family, but it used to be in the family Asclepidaceae. It's native to eastern and southwestern North America, pretty much everywhere in the United States except the Northwest, which is where I am. It's in USDA zones 3 through 9, so really tough, hardy perennial. It's pretty short as far as milkweeds go. This only gets about 1 foot to 1.5 feet high. One reference I found said that it gets as high as 3.5 feet high, but I've never seen that, and I don't think that's going to happen. Not with this one. Swamp milkweed gets that big, but not orange milk. The leaves are spirally arranged, lanceolate, and about 1.25 to 4 3/4 inches long, and about 3/4 to 1.25 inches broad or wide. The leaves and the stems are covered with these little tiny pubescent hairs. Many of the hairs are trichomes, and that actually makes it rather unappetizing for monarchs. Or monarch caterpillars. So this is not a favorite for monarch females to lay their eggs on. However, the adults will absolutely visit the flowers and drink the nectar. Its bloom time seems to be a debatable topic. Every reference I looked at gave a different time span. One said June through August, another said April through September. From what I've observed on this, it blooms in June through the early parts of July, and then it kind of fades and it goes to seed. That's what I've seen in my own garden. Maybe it's different in different places. I'm not sure. It's early July as I'm filming this, and the flowers are starting to fade already. So I don't think I'm going to have much color on this for very much longer. But it's going to go to seed, and the seed heads are very cool and attractive looking. These clusters of flowers are called umbels. An umbel is like a flat collection of flowers on different little stems. The flowers can range in color from yellow to orange to red. They're usually orange, and nobody's really sure what causes the color variation. They think it might be something in the soil or it might be something in the genetics, but I have an orange and a yellow one in my garden that came from the same nursery. They might have even come from the same seed stock. I'm not sure, but you get a bit of a variety with this, which is pretty cool. Each flower has 5 petals and 5 sepals. The seeds come in a pod, which is 3 to 6 inches long, containing many long-haired seeds. The seeds come with a fluff on them, and that makes it easily wind dispersed, just like all milkweeds. They come out of their pod, and the wind picks them up, and they carry them off. So if you don't want this spreading in your own garden or in your neighbor's gardens, make sure to catch the seeds before they release or just deadhead it after it finishes flowering. I'm not sure, but deadheading might be the thing that makes it flower longer, so give that a shot. Maybe let me know in the comments if you've tried that. I haven't because I've been collecting the seeds. Also, side note, this is one that I've been collecting seeds on, but as of this recording, have not gotten it listed on my seed shop yet. But check the link in the description below. Maybe it's there by now. I don't know. One day I do intend to have this listed as for sale in my seed shop. This is a really tolerant plant as far as it tolerates a lot of things. It's deer resistant, it's rabbit resistant, it tolerates drought and dry soil, and also shallow rocky soil. It's also great for erosion. And I even found one reference that said it tolerates salt. So if you have a space in your garden that's right next to a walkway or driveway or street that gets salted in the winter, this is one that might be okay next to that. There are a few similar species that I do want to mention. Orange milkweed looks very similar to lanceolate milkweed, Asclepias lanceolata, but it's uniquely identified by the larger number of flowers and the hairy stems that are not milky when broken. It's also commonly found in fields with dry soil. Tropical milkweed, or Asclepias curassapica, can resemble Asclepias tuberosa in its red form, but also lacks the hairy stems. Also, little side note, if you're in the United States, please don't plant tropical milkweed. It's actually harmful for the butterflies. It does a lot of harm, and I've done several videos on this already. But the bottom line is that, one, it doesn't die back like other native varieties of milkweed do, and it tends to vector OE, which is a pathogen that affects monarchs and messes up their wings more often than other milkweeds. So tropical milkweed is a no-grow. According to the Xerces Society and almost every scientist I follow, they all say tropical milkweed is not a good one to plant. It's often called orange milkweed because its flowers are yellow and red and they look orange, and it's really pretty plant, but it's not good for butterflies. So please don't plant it. That is different from this one. This one is native to most of the United States, and it is an excellent nectar source for lots of butterflies and bees. It's just not likely to have caterpillars on it because of all these hairy trichomes. One more difference from many milkweed species, this one actually doesn't have a milky sap. Usually if you break off a leaf from a milkweed, it'll bleed this milky sap, which monarchs are specifically adapted to tolerate. And there's all kinds of ways that they deal with the sap. It's actually really cool. But this one does not have that. Asclepias tuberosa has to have full sun. It does not do well in shade, and it has to have well-drained soil. It tolerates drought very, very well. And if you overwater it, it will actually suffer because of that. As well as if the soil doesn't drain well, it won't be happy. And it can die if it sits in water too much. Orange butterfly weed has very few serious pest or disease problems, but it is susceptible to crown rot if it's planted in a place where the soil does not drain well or it's too consistently moist. As far as care, almost nothing. I don't even think I've cut this one back in the spring. If I cut this back, it would be in the spring. I would take the dead stems and I would cut them back to about a foot, which is barely anything at all. Leave the stems for pollinators to use to lay their eggs. If you don't want it to spread and you don't want the seeds to save for give away or anything like that, then just deadhead it when it finishes flowering. If you do want the seeds, try to catch them before they blow away. I like to catch my milkweed seed pods just as they're starting to split open. So this is a daily task for several weeks. But these ones, if last year is any indication, they all came ripe at almost exactly the same time, so it actually didn't take long to collect these. It's fairly easy to propagate this one by seed. Some growers do cold stratify it in water for a month or two at about 5 degrees Celsius, but that's not actually required. And honestly, if you just throw the seeds on the ground, some of them will get eaten over the course of the winter by mice and rodents and birds and whatnot. But you could just throw the seeds on the ground and direct sow them, and they'll get cold stratified in the winter, and you'll have some new volunteer babies in the spring. It is fairly slow to establish and can take about 3 years before you actually get a flower on it, which I've seen that with several milkweeds. They need a year or two to establish, and then they'll start flowering, and then they live forever and flower forever, and they're fantastic. But just have some patience with this one. It might be a few years before you get some flowers. Orange milkweed actually attracts a lot of different wildlife, but the primary pollinators are actually bees and wasps rather than butterflies. It is a larval food plant for the queen and monarch butterflies, as well as the dogbane tiger moth, milkweed tussock moth, and the unexpected Cisnea. But because of its rough leaves and trichomes, it's not a preferred host plant of the monarch butterfly. However, caterpillars can be reared on it successfully. Another important thing to mention is that it is one of the very lowest Asclepias species in cardinalide content. This is the steroid that's in milkweeds that when monarchs eat it, it makes them distasteful to birds and borderline poisonous to most birds. Some birds have developed a resistance to this, so they still are predators of the monarch caterpillar and butterfly, but most of them don't like the taste, and so they avoid monarchs. This is because of the cardinalides in the milkweed. But Asclepias tuberosa is one of the lowest as far as cardinalide content, making it a poor source of protection from bird predation and parasite virulence, and perhaps contributing to its lack of attractiveness to egg-laying monarchs. Pollinators that it does attract are bees, including many specialized bees, butterflies, hummingbirds, and moths. Another fun thing to mention is that orange milkweed has been used by Native Americans for years for different medical things and food and all kinds of other stuff. It does have a low-grade toxicity level, but it's one of those plants that's generally considered toxic and yet is used in all kinds of different food dishes and all kinds of other stuff. So I think it's the preparation and the use that makes it not toxic. I'm not sure though. That's not my area of expertise. So if you do want more information on that, you'll have to Google it and do further research on your own. All right, let's talk design, because this one is really fun to add to your garden. There's a lot of cool ways that you can use this for a really stunning effect visually. So you'll want to figure out exactly when the bloom time is in your area, but this makes a stunning border, accent, or mass planting. So it depends on how much you like orange, in my opinion, of how you want to use this thing. Personally, orange is not my favorite color to use as the primary color. I like purples and pinks, but I absolutely love to use orange as an accent for all of the other flowers and plants in my garden. What's blooming at the same time as this one? Almost everything. Right now in my garden, what is blooming is my mountain spring blooming aster, my rudbeckia, several Asiatic and oriental lilies, my primrose right here, echinaceas, daylilies, swamp milkweed, Shasta daisies, and sedums. That's just in my yard. I found some really excellent lists online of what else you could plant this with that would be absolutely stunning. Blue morning glories, purple speedwells, yellow coreopsis, echinacea, liatris. Now, liatris in my yard hasn't bloomed yet, and I think that the timing isn't quite right to combine the two. But if they do bloom at the same time, they would be absolutely stunning, like knock your socks off gorgeous next to each other. Rudbeckia and grasses like little blue stem and prairie dropseed. This is a type of globe thistle or sea holly, and next to the orange milkweed, gorgeous color combination. Like this is just stunning next to each other. So you could plant this. Just make sure it has space because it does get quite large and it's very pokey, so you don't want to put it next to a walkway or anything. But you could plant this with this in front of it. Gorgeous. Absolutely stunning combination. Same with echinacea or salvia or speedwell or anything that is a purple or a pink, like more on the blue and purple side, would really make this just pop. Just remember again that once you plant this and once it gets established, it will be very hard to move because of that deep taproot. And it's unfeasible. It would be easier to start a new one from seed. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you learned something new. If it was valuable to you, make sure to hit the like button and tell me that you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe so you get more gardening content like this in your video feed every week. I am doing a whole series on native and drought-tolerant plants, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss that. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the garden.